No extra measures needed to combat Delta variant. Listen to Dr. Hinds. Dr. Hinds, right? Dr. Avery Hinds says, epidemiologist Dr. Avery Hinds says existing protocols and measures should be enough to protect the public from infection by any coronavirus variant, noting that, then he went on to say, TT borders will be reopened. The first layer of protection is the fact that individuals wishing to travel would have to have both, at this point, negative PCR and evidence of the vaccination. So Dr. Hinds says that we are all safe and secure, it's all right. Borders opening July 17 because Yankees say we have to open it. Never mind the science, never mind we dead in, never mind nothing. But he comes to say that we are safe because the quarantine process that WHO, PAHO, and Ministry of Health has put in place is safe, but it has been safe. We have had no community spread from repatriated people, which shows that the exemption policy and the suppression of rights by keeping citizens outside of this country and not letting them come home was nonsensical. It was abject nonsense. It was a suppression of rights without any potential to protect. It was unnecessary. For 17 months, people were kept out and it served no purpose. But now Dr. Hinds is telling us, hey, even though we had no community spread, when we had UK variant, we found it, we kept it in quarantine, gone. Through the people repatriation throughout, over 15,000, 20,000 people come back, plus them PNM who does go and come back is our next 15,000. So lots of people going and coming through this quarantine system, no community spread, no infections, no danger. He comes to tell us about that. And talking about the Indian variant, which is now called the Delta variant, which they are saying is more infectious than even the Brazilian variant. He is telling us that we safe like Selassie briefcase. There's one major problem, people. One big problem. The Brazilian variant didn't come through no airport. It didn't come through no system of repatriation. The Brazilian variant came through porous, unprotected borders that the PNM has not protected by the influx of illegal immigrants from Venezuela. That's where the Brazilian variant came. Case number one, case zero, number one was an illegal immigrant who came from Venezuela with the Brazilian variant. That from May 11 to present, 90% of our infections and deaths have been because of the Brazilian variant. Dr. Hinds speaks nothing about porous borders, nothing about him instructing, advising, or telling the government, listen, I am seeing and sensing that you have done nothing differently in the porous borders. The Brazilian variant came in through the porous borders. The Indian variant and Delta variant, whatever you want to call it, is going to come through the porous borders. You are going to make my job harder if you do not protect the porous borders. Where's the Coast Guard? I see that big mouth and the robots went fishing and all the Coast Guard boats park up, lock up. Where the helicopters? Where the army? Where the boats? Where the radar? What's going on? Why, Dr. Hinds? Why are you playing games? Your job is to protect us. The real risk of Delta variant is not through a sustained scientific quarantine period, vaccination, temperature checks, quarantine moves, so PCR tests from people coming in and out through legitimate ports. The real threat to us as we have lived and died is through the porous borders. Yet you don't talk that. So don't worry. When they open the borders, we safe, says Dr. Hinds. Isn't that very sad? And all of us sit there, and all of our lives are in the hands of this kind of pliable political shenanigans from someone who's supposed to be a professional. Nobody asks you to be PNM or UNC, you know. Just talk the science, talk the facts, and stop talking nonsense. From day one you talk. First time I ever heard your name was one doctor come out and say, the Mark Bassand report of 400 in extra cases of pneumonia, death, and respiratory death in Trinidad and Tobago. One doctor came out and said, "Nah, man, that's normal." Nobody else talked. Nobody else checked. No follow-up article from Mark Bassand. That was during Carnival, January to April last year. Our first death was here for Carnival. We weren't testing how many people were tested. That was where I heard Dr. Hinds. Dr. Hinds said, "Nah, man, illegal immigrants, no evidence of that in any spread of anything, but where the COVID was coming from, because all are we on lockdown, shutdown, and broke down, no community spread. COVID needs to jump from human being to human being. Where did COVID come from? Where the first wave done? Where the second wave come from? Where the third wave come? Where the Brazilian come from? And where the Indian Delta variant coming from?" So we heard the rules and regulations for when people come in the airport. PCR test, fully vaccinated, you could come. Citizens who are not vaccinated could come, but they have the PCR test. They go into quarantine for 14 days and so on and so forth. Non-citizens who are not vaccinated cannot come. Those who have double vaccination, they can come. That's great. We have a whole list of rules and regulations when you open the legitimate borders. What are the rules and regulations for the porous borders? For the open borders? For the 81 points? What are the rules for that? For the illegal immigrants who come in through? What are their rules? They have to take a PCR test. We checking to see if they're vaccinated when they come in through the bush in the carcass, when they come on a pirogue down through Chagaramas, when they slip in down by in the mangrove through there. What we going to do? Tell two scarlet ibis to swab their nose hole? What is the exact protocol to check illegal immigrants coming through the porous borders with Indian Delta variant? But this man says, Delta variant, no big deal. We have it covered, says Dr. Hinds. Page 22, Newsday, section A. Let me read something for you all, if you all want to take on this Dr. Hinds. About the Delta variant. It's a version of the coronavirus that has been found in more than 80 countries since it was first detected in India. Well, we must be 81. Experts say the Delta variant spreads more easily because of the mutations that make it better at latching onto cells in our bodies. In the United Kingdom, the variant is now responsible for 90% of all new infections. You heard that? In the US, it represents 20% of infections, and health officials say it could become the country's dominant type as well. The vaccines were protective for those who got both doses, but were less so among those who got one dose. But yet, Dr. of Stones, Dr. Dunce, Dr. Bully, Dr. Rowley, not he, Rowley, but he too, but he can't bully, he just dotish, he just pliable, he just up in Rowley K-Pax. But Dr. Stone said, "No man, one dose we good because we have to use that and he get expired vaccine." Everything is just incompetence abounds with this government. So here we have the facts, the science of the Delta variant. Since the Brazilian variant has arrived, once we Trinis reach in the ICU, we dead. We dead in at home. Over 300 deaths in May. On May 11th, the Brazilian variant became 90% of all positive cases in Trinidad and Tobago. That came through porous borders. The Delta variant is more infectious than the Brazilian variant. So if the Brazilian variant came in and caused us death and devastation like that, over 600 deaths in 2 months, the borders remain porous and the same. Coast Guard not floating, not patrolling. Radar, dead people floating in under the radar. Pirate robbing and making fishermen jump overboard and keeping their boat right in the Gulf of Paria. No helicopter, no air guard, no army camps, no police roadblocks. The police riverine unit have 4 boats or so, them doing a little walk. I see them help them catch some people and so on. So well done to Gary Griffith and them. But where the Coast Guard? Where the Air Guard? Where the helicopters? Our borders are porous. Y'all are talking about the airport? Who care about the airport? Nothing coming through the airport. You have enough systems to handle that scientifically. Testing, PCR vaccine, temperature, quarantine. That's not our problem. Our problem is the porous borders, and they're still porous. And y'all are still talking nonsense and accepting Ethelbert and Smallpin and Rowley talking all this nonsense. And while we are suffering like that with incompetence, look at Barbados. Barbados would soon test for all COVID-19 variants. Bridgetown, Barbados, they said it will this week be in a position to screen positive coronavirus COVID-19 cases for all variants of the virus, as authorities urge people here to get vaccinated in a bid to prevent the spread of the disease. Health and Wellness Minister, retired Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic, said the best Dos Santos Public Health Laboratory should be in a position to screen positive COVID-19 cases for all variants, and that equipment which had been sent overseas to be recalibrated to facilitate the screening had been returned. We still doing random testing for the Brazilian variant and trying to extrapolate the infectious nature of the variant. We can't test all the positives. We are testing only 700 people per day or 2 days, whatever them thing is, and still getting 24 to 30% positive cases. How many Brazilian? Are any of them Delta variant? Is the Delta variant here? Has the Indian variant arrived? It hit Brazil 4 weeks ago. It hit Venezuela 22 days ago. Has it arrived here yet?